Welcome to a special little edition of podcasts that the church does occasionally, First Church does occasionally. And for this particular little chat today, we wanted to bring in some special friends, people that we love here at First Church. Let me introduce them to you. This is Pastor Bob Moss, pastored. Bob, how many years?
I was here 15 years.
15 years, yeah. And so great to have Pastor Moss back with us, and then Rachel Steiner. Rachel, your accent's a little different. I grew up in Southern Illinois. I can sense a little difference in your accent. Where's home for you?
I'm from Hungary, so that's why I have a little bit of accent, right? Okay, that was the question for.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yes.
So this is Rachel Steiner, and many of you probably know her mom Sheila and dad Joseph, brother David. So from that great family that First Church loves. So we thought it'd be fun to. Rachel's here in the States for a few weeks with us, and just thought it'd be fun to go back, reminisce a little bit, talk about some of the impact that First Church has had through the years, and how then it relates to today and what's going on in Hungary and some of the connections that we still have with the great people of Hungary. So, Pastor Bob, can you take us way back and just help for people that don't know really the history of First Church? Right. That really deep history of loving people beyond just this little small community.
Yes, actually, First Church has a long and rich history of reaching beyond just this community, and has been a great supporter of the worldwide mission of the Church of God, but not only sending dollars, but also being involved with people. Yeah. Way back in the 1970s, I think it was P.V. Jacob from India that was very close to this congregation. And some of the older members have said to me, it's interesting watching the different generations of this church, how the Lord brings different people that we interface with from around the world that become front and center in our mission work. So it was, 1991 when I began to recognize that, here's the change of government in Eastern Europe. The Iron Curtain has fallen, and I began talking about with the mission leaders in Anderson, what are we doing to explore how is the Church of God doing in those former communist countries in what was
Soviet bloc.
Soviet bloc or behind the Iron Curtain. And when you start asking that kind of questions, the next thing you know, I'm on a mission trip with.
You ended up on a plane.
On an airplane with several leaders. I think there were 5 or 6 of us. One from Germany.
And did you go just to Hungary, or were there other? Did you go to other?
During that time, we traveled primarily to Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania. Yeah. And it was really a life-changing experience for me.
And was it that you had heard or had some sense that there was some remnant of the Church of God in those countries, or there was just you're just going to check it out?
We knew that there was some remnant of the Church of God in those countries, and that there was 2 congregations in Hungary at that time.
Yeah. So. Okay, so you guys get there. So how did you get to know? How did you come across Joseph Steiner, Rachel's father? How did that connection get made? Was he a part of the church there?
Yeah, he was part of the church there in Budapest. It's hard to say this name, Rákospalota Church. How did I do?
Rákospalota.
There you go.
Yes,
all right.
But it was really
I'll let
perfect.
you say it your way. That was good. So he was a part of that congregation, and we actually had 2 special assignment missionaries who were working in Hungary. One was Tammy Dragalis, and the other was Melissa Wells. And they had written me a letter after that initial visit inviting me to come back. This was from the leader of the congregation, inviting me to come back. And actually, Pastor Bob Confer went with me on that trip. And we went there to start sharing with them about what we do, about small groups, about Christian education, about youth ministry, about things like that. So.
Yeah, and Rachel, were you, I know it's not polite to ask a lady her age, but were you around then?
I think I was like 1 or 2 years.
Well, in 1992, we're
oh
talking
no,
about,
minus 2 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so not
Yeah.
quite yet. Okay.
We weren't around yet.
99.
Okay, so then because you come into the story eventually,
Yes.
so how did, because so we had some connections
Right.
with the church, but then as many in the congregation probably remember, Joseph and the family came to then St. Joe. How did that happen?
Yeah, so to take it back to that moment in Rakesh Balata Church, I was asking them, what is your greatest prayer request? And they said, we are praying that God would raise up for us a pastor. Okay. And then these special assignment missionaries took me off in the corner and they said, do you see that young guy over there? His name is Joseph Steiner. And we think he has the gifts to become the pastor.
But Joseph had not been trained as a pastor. What was his training was in?
He was an electrical engineer.
Okay,
Yeah. Under the lay person who was leading the church at that time.
And that's probably why the church has just really always loved Joseph, because there's so many engineers in
There
that
you
first
go.
church. So
That's right, exactly, right.
we got
Right.
engineers everywhere. So
Yeah.
that was a good fit. So
Yeah,
okay,
so they
that's
said,
the guy potentially.
They said this young guy,
Yeah.
and he didn't speak English at all at that point. And so through a translator, we went off into the corner. I could take you to the place. So we had this little circle of 3 chairs. And Balash was our translator. And I said, is it possible that the Lord is calling you to ministry? At which time, this young man, who was 23 years old, burst into tears. And I was like, oh, what have I done? I've really offended him, But he burst into tears. And finally, he gained his composure. And he said, for about 6 months, I've been feeling the Lord calling me to ministry. And this is something great about First Church, because I had the confidence to say, we will help you.
Yeah.
We will help you. And I knew that the church
Yeah.
would back
Yeah.
that commitment,
Yeah.
and did they.
Yeah. That's exciting. And so then the church, you invited the family to come eventually.
Yeah, so we started sending some support, and Joseph began theological education
In Hungary.
Mm-hmm. Came out as you might imagine, if you know Joseph, at top of the class, and Gary Zick and Steve Duran and I went back in 1996. By this time, our little Rachel was around, and. As we were there visiting the church and reconnecting with Joseph, so there's a gap now of 3-4 years. We together over breakfast one day said, wouldn't it be amazing if this young guy could come and do internship with us at First Church, really understand all the elements of ministry, and so the idea was born.
Yeah. And so then the whole family came.
The following summer, 1997,
Okay.
in July.
And so that's where
You celebrated your 3rd birthday.
My birthday.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
That's right.
Rachel, do you remember so what do you remember as a child coming to the States, didn't speak any English?
Not that time, but
Yeah.
I think I pretty quickly
You
picked
did.
up the
That's amazing.
language.
Yeah.
I
I think your first word was cookie.
cookie and still best one of my most favorite words. Yeah. So I remember that we came to church. I still remember a little bit of people that I could meet during my visit now as well, and just the spirit that is here at First Church. I went to the preschool
As a student.
as a student.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember some games, and I really remember that I was really excited to be at the preschool here, and the whole is just a beautiful experience in my heart.
Yeah.
I just remember
Yeah,
small, but
I don't remember
what I
a whole lot
remember
from
was
when I was
really
3 or
nice.
4 either.
Right.
Fairness.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then, how long did the family stay? Do you remember?
I think it was 1
Six months, yeah.
Oh, okay.
6 months.
Okay,
yeah.
6
Okay.
months.
And then the church, I know when I became pastor then, so I've been here 17 years. So between the two of us, that's 32, 33
Yeah,
years going on.
right,
So that's a
right.
pretty good chunk of the time of the church, history of the church. One of the very first things you talked to me about is I want to take you to Hungary.
That's right, yeah.
I want to show you what God's up to in Hungary and what he's been doing. I want to introduce you to these great leaders. And
Yes.
yeah. So I don't know if you recall that trip.
I remember it really closely because I have this belief, it's a leadership principle, that you can't inherit loyalty. You know, when I came here to be the pastor, there were.
If you're wondering what to write down, you should write that down.
You don't inherit loyalty.
It's
when
good.
I came here, I had that experience of people who were passionate about certain mission things that I didn't know anything about,
Sure.
but they expected me to be equally passionate because I'm now the senior pastor. And so that's when I began to say, I just can't inherit loyalty. I have to see it firsthand and be a part of it. And so that's why I said, hey, David, I'd love to take you so you can see the influence of the congregation in Hungary.
Yeah. And so then at that point, then the ministry had kind of expanded a little bit, and there's some different pieces of it. So can you tell us some of, because there's some other churches now and some other ministries or whatever, like the church was in Budapest, I think was.
Yeah,
did I say that right?
Yes, but
Right.
Pretty close.
Yes, really much.
Yeah, so that was the first expansion of the ministry was to plant the new congregation in Budapest. And then eventually, when Joseph received the opportunity to go to Debrecen, we also planted a congregation there. I'm making long stories really short.
Sure. Yeah, this is
but,
spans of time. Yeah,
Spans
definitely.
of time, but yeah.
And can you tell, just for the sake of the folks, First Church folks that might be listening, just can you tell them how they were involved as a congregation to make that, like the Budapest Church, a reality?
Yeah, absolutely. There was no building. They started meeting in Joseph and Sheila's home, and eventually, as we were just outgrowing that space, we began searching. I was there on a trip, and Joseph and I were driving around, and eventually he showed me this piece of property, and it was going to cost some dollars. It was an existing building that needed to be renovated, but had the bones to be a church. And long story short, through mission giving at First Church, that property was purchased. And then through 2 or 3 different work camps, First Church people put hands on the building and helped with painting. And there was somebody who had a burden for buying the chairs, and they bought the chairs. So these kinds of things were just amazing as a testimony to a church that caught a vision. About Eastern Europe, particularly Hungary. So, yeah.
And Rachel, could you share a little bit? So Dad went on, did even more schooling and training and whatever. And can you tell us kind of the latest of what the Steiner family is up to, and what your dad's up to these days, and kind of how to fast forward that? And
First of all, I just wanted to add for a previous question that I think that what First Church did by coming to Hungary and starting to do this internship and disciple making with my dad, it just changed the entire life of my family and my life as well. And I'm just really thankful for that, because I know that, I'm sorry, my dad was in the business world, and as mentioned, as an engineer, and I'm pretty sure that our life would be in a much different shape if First Church didn't come to Hungary and reach out to him. And by this, he become a believer, and my entire family turned to the Lord, myself as well, still today. So I'm really thankful for all of you for this still today. And I think it's a life-changing thing that the church did.
Yeah.
And still, I consider First Church as my home church still today. So coming back to nowadays, what the family does.
Yeah, so your dad, he's not just Joseph Steiner, he's Dr. Steiner.
Oh yeah.
So just so he continued that schooling. Maybe tell us about that and just what because we were friends on Facebook, and so I'm all the time.
But it's
he's going to some other country,
follow.
He's very difficult to follow because there's things going on everywhere, and it's just neat to think that as a congregation that we have this heritage that we were able to love on and speak into and help and be a part of that.
Invest in.
That's a good term. Invest in. So I think people will be interested to know, okay, where's because he's not necessarily, pastor in the Church of God, and that's okay. But what is he kind of doing now?
So he's really much multifunctional, if we can say that. So I think when he had his calling, it was also a global calling for him.
Kind of a leader of leaders.
Exactly, and also to bring God's world to the entire world, because I can say it's an up-to-date information that he's in Liberia now, and I know that he's teaching Christian message to people there and bringing the world to the ones that may have no other chance if he wouldn't go there. And his mission is to bring this message that the Lord is here for all of us in the entire world. So he travels all the time. It's difficult to catch up. What is the next location where he's going to be at? He goes to Ukraine, Africa, many different European countries. So that's what he's doing. So it was a good investment from First Church because it's all over the world.
And it's all, and the kingdom is we're all on the same team. So to see him doing things, I would just encourage you, First Church, we should feel good about that partnership and how we were a part of that.
Absolutely.
And the reach maybe of the church through Joseph and his ministry and the family, and it's just neat to think about. I think it's really important for us to understand some of our heritage and to understand that DNA that has been from the very beginning. That's in First Church. I love those stories. I don't know how many people are familiar with that original church building downtown St. Joe. Right. The third floor was reserved for missionaries that would come and convalesce. Like a dormitory kind of setting where they could come from all over the world, have a place to stay, hang out. St. Joe's a pretty nice place, even back in 1920. That's back in the day. And so that was, missions was always at the heart. And just even the history of the church, we're not a bunch of, our heritage is not a bunch of people from, originally from the United States. Just were born and raised in Michigan and started this church. It was overseas. That's really true. Eastern European, and I've found out recently a lot of Ukrainian descent is who were some of the original church members. Right. So that heritage of a heart beyond ourselves for the world.
That's exactly right. Yeah. David, I was thinking about this. A lot of times I have an apple for my lunch. I cut an apple in half, and it occurred to me, you see the apple seed, and I was thinking, it's easy to count the seeds in an apple, but you can't really count the apples in a seed. And
yet another thing you should write down if you're taking notes today.
Well, that's what
the next one.
But that's what's happened through this ministry is that this little trip where eventually we discovered Joseph and we said, we will help you. Those little words, we will help you. Yeah. That's just an apple seed, But look at the apples that are coming out of the one seed, that it's just amazing. Yeah. And no one can foresee that. No one can foresee that. And Jesus said, some of the seeds, they fall by the wayside and they don't sprout up. But look at the harvest that's come from that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and then Rachel, it's been a while since you've been to the States, and so you recently have been with us the last few weeks. Just tell us about your experience here. And
Yeah. So just like my dad, I also work in the business environment, and I had this strong feeling that I wanted to come back to my home church to experience what.
And that's us, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's us. Yeah.
I wanted to see all the things that the church is doing, because when you were in Hungary, you were telling us about some new project that you're doing with the car service hub or the laundry hub or the different campuses. I didn't even see the Stevensville campus, which is the oldest, right? The oldest
no, Benton Heights is the oldest.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I was really excited, and I just called David and Crystal that I would like to do some kind of internship or volunteering.
Yeah.
So for the past 3.5 weeks, I was here, and I had the chance to see what the church is doing in the different campuses, meeting all the pastors, seeing all the campuses, meeting the people there, the amazing people there, really. I have so many names, but I know not all people like to be mentioned in some kind of podcast like this, but I have it in my heart. I met so many amazing people in these campuses with the heart to volunteer, to serve the Lord. So many amazing worship songs, and with what was in St. Joe as well, the worship retreat, what we had. Yeah. And I could also help with some things around the church here. But most importantly, my faith just got recharged.
Recharged.
I just plugged in to First Church, and I'm really, really amazed. And I know it's the Lord and it's God, but I think First Church is amazing equipment in this, and I'm just amazed by all of these people here.
I love that, and you were able to connect with some of the people that you knew as a child.
Yeah,
and it's like, I mean, there's so many. There was a line of people that wanted to, hey, can we have Rachel over? Can we take her out? So you had just a lot of people.
Just telling Bob the previous day that I was a little bit excited in a mixed way, that how he's going to be like back here after so many years. And I can say that these people didn't change from the outside, but most importantly from the inside as well. So it was really the love I could feel. Oh, it's just, my heart is really full. So thank you.
It's just what a cool thing about, that's the kingdom, and that's we're brothers and sisters in Christ. There's just something about that. It's
amazing.
And can you tell us, who is Petty? There's another Hungarian that some people might know.
Yeah, and I'm not crying because of Petty, just because of the emotions that I was trying to describe in the previous topic. So Petty Kish is my cousin, who is a pastor in Budakalász Church of God, lead pastor. And I think he's also an apple seed from the first investment that First Church did, because he's mentored by a few of the fellows sitting next to me, and also by my dad.
So that, if you're tracking, Budakalász Church, where Petty now is pastor, is the church that was begun back then, and that Peter, or that Joseph and his family pastored, so that we see that connection. So some of a cool thing. This is hot off the presses insider information for you. You're listening to this podcast. Just this morning, I talked to Petty, and the church is going to be a supporter. There's some new initiatives that he's excited about, and the church is excited about. So we're going to be supporting that over the next 2 years. And so we're really excited about some of that reconnection. And the Eau Claire campus, our newest campus, is actually, we had not identified where because we tithe on every dollar that comes in, and so they had a chunk of money that we'd not identified. Where is this mission support going to go? So that church is going to support this church in Budakalash. So they're going to have this sister congregation now in the Eau Claire, our newest campus. That's going to be their mission project. So that's really fun, really cool.
That's beautiful.
So any last words for us as we conclude today?
By me, you were just saying about Eau Claire campus. And my trip is ending soon, so I am really, really, really sorry that I can't go to the opening ceremony.
Weekend,
So I would like to just grab this opportunity and motivate everyone to go to that one, because if I would be here, that would be the first place for me to go.
Yeah.
And so just closing up, thank you so much for having me, and I think I'm going home with a full heart.
Awesome.
Amen.
Awesome.
Amen.
Pastor, any last words for the congregation of
Well,
encouragement?
I just think that, it's exciting to see that the ministry efforts continue to expand in different ways, non-traditional ways, and ways that are kingdom expanding.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. And so Renee and I will be back this weekend after I had a 4-month preaching stint at a church in Indiana. So we're going to be glad to be home.
We are thrilled to have Pastor Moss and Renee as a part of our congregation. So, well, thanks for joining us on this little special edition of our podcast, where we're just talking and dreaming about and thinking about what has been and what will be.
Will be.
Yeah.
Amen.
Bless you.